What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Finish Line, a trail running podcast that dives deep into the stories that transcend far beyond the trails. I'm your host, Joe Hardin. I'm a passionate trail and ultra distance enthusiast myself. Today's guest doesn't just run ultras; he runs towards the tough conversations most people in the endurance world shy away from. Brian Wolfie Peterson is the voice behind Wolfie's World, a podcast and platform that digs deep into the mindset, culture, and contradictions of trail and ultra running. And I just love what Wolfie brings to like the space. I love this like building things up, like breaking things down and building them back up. And I've always loved the like some of the debates he hosts. It's just like a to me, Wolfie's World has been like a really refreshing take on this in the ultra distance space. And I can't really wait. I'm like really excited to get Wolfie on. But before I bring him forward, a little housekeeping out of the way, friends. If you're digging the pod, please do me a huge solid. Go to Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast content, and go smash that subscribe button. Give me a 5-star review if you feel so inclined. Your support is invaluable. I can't do this without you. So it's much appreciated. So without further ado, let's go beyond the finish line with Brian Wolfie Peterson. What's
What's up,
up,
buddy?
Wolfie?
Yeah, man, it's
So
good to connect. I know we've had this in the
yeah,
pipeline for a couple weeks, couple months now.
yeah. I know. I reached out to you like a long time ago. You're like, man, I don't even know what I'm doing next week, and I was like, yeah, fair
Yeah,
enough. But I was just like really excited to get you on. So yeah, I was super stoked. I've been looking for this for a while. Um, yeah, I'm just really excited. Man, like I said, I dug into Josh's work pretty early on, and then your show came on. And it's like, damn, I just love what you're doing. I just like love how you're breaking things down and rebuilding. I always love that concept. I love the debates. I love how like open and honest you are. Like even if maybe you're like wrong about something, I love how you kind of like you own up to it, and then you like it seems like you're like learning and building. I just like that's just something that I don't think you see a lot anywhere, not just in like ultra distance and like trail running. So I just always kind of appreciate like the honesty and like how raw you are, and I guess that's just something you don't see a lot. So I was pretty stoked to have you on, and it's just like I said, there's a lot of podcasts out there, and I think what you guys are bringing to the table is like a breath of fresh air. It's just not something that you're hearing a lot of. So that was
yeah, I
just, I guess,
appreciate
just
that.
a shout out to you, Wolfie. But so like I kind of like what I do with every guest. You're so many more things than just a trail runner, like. But I would like to maybe give you some time to just tell me who's Brian Peterson, who's Wolfie, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of
Yeah.
funny when you got a when you got a moniker, kind of a nickname that everybody associates you with. Brian Peterson. People are like, "Who's that?" Right? So yeah, I mean, I'm just a regular guy, plugged into the matrix. I'm in the rat race, Monday through Friday, regular day job, all the stressors of corporate life and trying to fit everything in with a full family, married, great wife, great kids, son who's going to be in his, like, he's going to 22 here coming up this weekend. Got a daughter who will be 14. So, they're
Oh
older.
wow.
They're not young kids. They can take care of themselves for the most part. But yeah, full life, full family, passionate sports fan. And I think that's why I kind of decided I wanted to, throw my name in the ring around podcasting and just contributing to content and things like that. It was because I just didn't have the show that I wanted to listen to. And instead of complaining, I just thought, build it and see if they'll come. And so it's been great to have everybody's support. It's really been humbling. And, I just try to pour it all back out to the 95.
Heck yeah. I want to get to the night because I love what like you're representing like the 95, and I want to get to that. But real quick, out of curiosity, I got to know like where does Wolfie come from? I guess I know I've heard the story before, but I'd like to hear that again.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, being 43, I'm the product of, late 80s, early 90s. I think, biasly, I think that was the best generation. We didn't have social media, video games were still, you just had to go to your buddy's house to play them. You couldn't play them remote like these kids today, right? So everything was IRL, right? As the kids say, it was in real life. You had experiences, you had as much freedom as you could, ride on your mountain bike or on your BMX bike and, hit a liquor store up and grab some Mountain Dews and, sugary snacks, right? That's what ultra running is like kind of for grown-ups. It's like the same vibes that we had. And so, yeah, I was involved in sports, baseball, basketball, your normal, team sports, and then got into running in high school just kind of on a whim. It was an accidental connection and didn't really resonate with being a runner, but I was good at it. And so I stuck with it. And then, yeah, as I moved into life, kind of put running on the shelf for a better part of the decade. And it wasn't until my early 30s that I found running again and really connected with it in a really authentic way. So very grateful, to be a runner and part of the community.
Yeah. Man, you touched on something like because I believe we're about the same age. I'm 43,
Yeah.
so you touched on a thing that's like I remember that's what like in order to find your buddies, you kind of had to hop on your bike and see where all the other bikes
Yeah.
were. And I remember that like hopping on a bike and like grabbing a jolt
Yeah.
cola or something and then like going and chasing down where your buddies were. So yeah, something you said, I guess that kind of stuck out to me was you said you ran early, earlier in life, and you dropped it for a decade. Um, what made you pick it back up, like in your
Yeah. Good
30s?
question. At that point, I was probably getting into, too many vices, just, staying out late, big into the music scene and, all the drinking and partying that comes with that. And, was golfing some, but then golfing was also, just a bad vice at the time. And then still needed to fill, some time, as I kind of cut some things out that were a bit toxic. And so running, I think was fascinating for me. I was familiar with it, having ran in high school and immediately saw trail running. And it was the images of, Anton, Timothy Olson, Rob Carrar, these guys that kind of had that same rock star aesthetic that I was used to seeing in LA and, with the bands and everything. And so it was familiar, but still forward enough that it was exciting. And so, yeah, you kind of dive in headfirst from there. And, it's a rabbit hole of, you know, ultra community. And yeah, you've got local run clubs. Like hopped on Strava, found, some guys that were, identifying as trail runners and, still buddies with them to this day. And, grateful for them, showing me the ropes.
That's cool. Like, what do you think is different about, comparing your running like earlier in life to now? Like, what do you think's different about it? What do you think um, is like making you stay? Like, what's sticking this time?
Oh,
I
I'm
guess
just so much more mature, right? I mean, with life, yeah, with
just
so
so
much
much
more,
mature.
like when you're 16, 18, early 20s, like you don't have the same life stress. Like you don't appreciate, things that give you healthy virtues and, ground you and humble you, right? Those are all things that when you're 18 and 20 as a young man, you're trying to rebel against. Like you don't want, you don't really want those yet. You don't appreciate them in your life. And so, now it's like I get my morning run in and it's like I'm such a better person, when I am able to
Oh
get a
yeah.
run in and, just drain some of that natural energy that we have inside of us as men. And, it's nice knowing that you've knocked out something difficult and the rest of your day is probably going to be easier than what you just took on. So, yeah, I think it's just a sense of appreciation for what it is. It doesn't have to be performance based. So it's not like I'm always, measuring the run or anything based on, some sort of tangible metric or anything like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think when I first got into running, I was like, I'm obviously like my why is it changes like
Right.
weekly, but it was for like I got into for like weight loss and like health, and then it's like now it's a totally different thing. Now it's a different mission. Um, it's I would say it comes more from the heart than it did like when I first got into running. And same thing, it's like now I like barely pay attention to like any of those like I like vanity metrics when it comes to like speed. It's like I kind of just like hone in on like, like what did I learn? Like did I fall in love with running and like am I still in love with the process? I was like, that's kind of like my new benchmarks for like running. I mean, I don't even know the last time I really gave a shit about my pace, but I'm slow and I'm a back of the packer
Right
anyways.
on.
I'm a proud party pacer, but yeah, so yeah, I'm certain that you like agree with that. So I kind of like what you said there,
Well, that's what it's about, Joe, is like,
and there's something,
I think that's
yeah,
when,
yeah,
yeah, that's when like this thing really kicks in for us and becomes like a staple of our life is when, it's who we are. You know what I mean? It's like we identify with it as much as like breathing or our left arm. You know what I mean? Like, why do you run? Well, it's who I am. Like, what do you mean? You know what I mean? It's like you said, your why changes so many times. It's because it's who you are. And the only constant is that, you can go to running to try and, get through a hard patch in your life, right? Or, go out and, get clarity and think about something more clearly, or have more patience with something that you need in your life. So I think that's what it's about, like what you're touching on. We all enter for different reasons. And I think we all kind of over time understand it for what it is. It's just who we are. It's our identity. It's our identity.
Yeah, and that's happened to you, right? Like your focus or like mission or like like your why has probably changed like several times over now that now that you're another decade into trail running. Um, so how do you think? I guess maybe run us through like how. Well, what am I trying to get at here? Like, well, I guess you would agree with that, but that has always been the case. Like your why is like probably changed like quite a bit. Like now that you've like another decade now into trail running.
Yeah, definitely. Like now I want to help, help others, you know, explore, understand, make fewer mistakes maybe than we did when we were coming into the sport. And that's really what Wolfie's World is about, is to find topics, that aren't conventional, find maybe two ideas, right? And then, they're bringing abstract thoughts and put them together, have fun with it, play with different concepts, challenge some baseline, concepts that we just accept for no reason, that we understand, right? And yeah, I think, that's really what it's about now, is just, helping people now that I've got a decade here into running and still learning myself. I think like anything, like if you can become a mentor, it's selfish because you actually are benefiting from it as well. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of what I get at. It's like I'm almost like fulfilling myself, helping somebody else out, like in my own selfish way. But all yeah, true. I'm not. I haven't been in the game that long, but I feel like I still have like a little bit to give. Maybe not in terms of like training principles or anything like that, but kind of maybe like establishing why you're doing something. That's kind of kind of where I can help in that space, I guess. But something that you talk about like a lot on Wolfie's World is like the 95, like that's us, right? Like we represent like that 95. And I guess I kind of wanted to like get like a rundown, like what do you think like the 95 represents to like you and the trail running world?
yeah, so I like double entendres, right? I love like meetings and, philosophy and things like that. And so the 95 was just a nice catchy phrase where it's us who have a 9 to 5, right? It's like I said in some of the podcasts, it's we we make time to run, we don't run to fill time. And, you've got those who make a living out of running, or just have, the luxury of having a flexible schedule where, it's never problem for them to figure out when they're going to run or for how long. And, the 95 that I resonate with or connect with in my lifestyle, man, that's not my existence, right? Like we're always trying to figure out where we can fit the next run in, or we know that like if we miss that window of opportunity, it's gone. Like it's probably going to be too big of a sacrifice on the family, on the kids, on the work life, whatever it is, to try and fit it in somewhere else. And so, yeah, I mean, the 95 again, it's just a reminder to everybody out there. You've got a lot of the major podcasting, platforms that do a great job, highlighting and speaking to and from the perspective of an elite. And, I think that voice has gotten loud over the last, 5, 6 years. And I just wanted to be a voice that, kind of comes back to the 95 in a unique way. Josh was always doing that with Borderlands, but I think what I wanted to
Yeah.
do was kind of bring in my own unique perspectives where, I do value some performance metrics, and I think challenging yourself to have big goals, or, taking things, seriously at times, with an elite perspective, can benefit all of us. So yeah, that's where I'm at with the 95.
Yeah, I love that because like that resonates hard with me. It's like I'm in that same space. It's you know, like for instance, today's been kind of a hectic day. I'm honored to have you on the podcast, but my run might not happen until
Oh
after
boy.
this show is over. This will probably get me
There you
fired
go.
up to go. But so it's like that's my space. I resonate so well with that. It's like I'm gonna get it in where I can fit it in, and so I think that's cool. And something that you said, it's like I love that even though when you take on subjects like elite sports and all that, it's from like our perspective. It feels like it's not like elite runners who highlight elite runners. I love that space. I love what Borderlands is doing in Wolfie's World, where it's like, I care about the elites, and I think it's cool that they're highlighted, but you're also giving space to like the everyday runner, like the 9 to 5 runner. I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
no, I appreciate
Yeah, I
it.
just resonate deeply with that. Yeah. Um, man, something I really love that you say, and this kind of, you had some podcasts about like, kind of like how you identify with like self expression with trail
Right.
running. And I was thinking about like why I run recently. And it's funny, like I feel like that last episode you did kind of came like the perfect time. Cause like, why am I even still doing this? It's like, I realize I'm not really doing it for health. I mean, that's a component. I mean, I like to stay active. I would like to, be mobile and active till my kids or till I have grandkids. But it's like far beyond that now. And you hit on something like trail running as like your form of self expression. I just really love that, and that made me think deeply about like my relationship with trail running. And it's like a way of like expressing like who I am. And I guess kind of wanted you to like maybe unpack that and like kind of what that means to you in your like trail running
Yeah,
journey.
man. I mean, I love uh I love aesthetics, like whether it's within running or just my daily life. Like me and my wife, she has a like a vintage clothing. We do that together. So we go out and our free time. That's kind of how we date each other. We'll go to garage sales, estate sales. We'll always be on the hunt for something unique and from a bygone era, right? So most of the clothes I wear are going to be
Yeah.
vintage of some kind, and that's why I always encourage people to go find something cool from the 90s, the 80s, and crop it, cut the sleeves off, make it unique to you. Like we all kind of look at brands like Satisfied. We appreciate, what they're doing. But that's obtainable for everyone. So if the price point isn't, feasible for you, then, I just want to encourage everybody to go find that for themselves. It exists out there. And, I want to be a voice to, empower people to get out there and maybe embrace something they normally wouldn't in their daily lives. I think that's why it's the best era for running right now, because it's really penetrating the mainstream right now. There's a lot of attention from, brands, corporations, just everything right now. The spotlight is really bright and hot for running. And so we got to have fun with it, and I think like I talked about growing up in the 80s and 90s, like you used your clothing to present forward kind of who you were and what you valued, right? Like whether it was a sports
Yeah.
team or, you were a skater. And so you signaled with that direction. We're just doing the same thing here in trail running. It's just like I said, it's like an avatar that we get to project this like badass trail ultra runner version of ourselves. And whether you're a dirt bag, you're a guy who's high performance and you want splits and everything else, or you're just this punk rock and roller guy, right? Like we all have these characters in trail running, and I think there's something inside you that's authentic that you can present forward and really connect with the sport, on a deeper level.
Yeah, I love that. Like I noticed today you were wearing like a really cool Motley Crue t-shirt too. I was like, "Oh man, that's so cool." And it's funny that you say that because like I've been, so I had like a lot of band t-shirts in my teens and 20s, and I was forced to like grow up. I had to get like a job and all this stuff.
Right.
So now that I'm in my mid 40s, I've been like doubling back and like getting the shoes I used to have. Like I got like a pair of high top Chuck Taylors a few weeks ago, like some
Nice.
shell toe Adidas. And then I went and snagged like this Ship of Fools Grateful Dead shirt. It's like I couldn't show up to work wearing this stuff, but like as you mentioned, like I can kind of become like who I want to be when I'm trail running. So same thing. I've been like trying to snag up old vintage shirts and like hats and stuff and wear those when I'm trail running, because I could never be that person, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. when I punch in at work or whatever. So I think that's so cool. Like yeah, I appreciated seeing the old school Motley Crue T-shirt. I was like, man, that's so cool. But
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
yeah. So do you guys just like go to like secondhand stores and just like yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so anytime, garage sale sign, she's gonna, tap my shoulder and tell me pull over, or yeah, hunting estate sales, or, whatever the case is. Our eyes are always, we're like the American Pickers, for anybody that catches that TV show. It's pretty big now, it's been on for a long time, but we've been doing that for, 15 years now that we've been together. So
That's cool. Yeah, I started out kind of wearing like the Adidas and like Nike shirts, and then I've been slowly like embracing my like dirtbag trail trash persona. So
There you
I'm
go.
morphing slowly into that.
And that's fine, man. As frequently as your why changes, so too can, your
So can the
wardrobe and how
style.
you just yeah, exactly.
Yeah, some of those pictures you sent me earlier, I was like, man, this is like you're like a whole vibe. So I really like the I really like how you had everything put together. That's
Yeah, I
cool.
mean, while we're on that too, it's like that's kind of why I didn't resonate with running in my teens, was that back then, like the running attire, right? Like the identity of a runner was very narrow, and it was just, it wasn't authentic to me. I felt like anytime I put on running clothes, I felt like I was dressing up, right? And so then when I came back to it in my 30s, like it was like, well, I can just run in a way that is representative of me. And I think now you're starting to see that's kind of the concept that everybody's embracing. Like you don't just have to wear a 3-inch running, short and a singlet that says, whatever major running brand. There was usually only be about 5 of them, right? And now it's like endless
God, yeah.
options. So I think that's what really helps me connect and stay, uh, committed to running, is that I can be involved in the sport and just allow myself, to shine through.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 3 inch. That's a lot of thigh for me. I still wear long
Hey, the
shorts. I'm
short
still
knees, man.
rocking some
See? The
long
short
shorts,
knees, you
but
can bring in the short knees or the
yeah,
Francoise. Yeah.
sure the short knees. Oh man. Um, well, all right. Well, yeah, man. So I got to ask um, a kind of a random question, but so like how you see yourself in like ultra running. Obviously, you say you don't really like hit on the performance aspect as much, but like I guess I want to ask like how do you feel running running as like a spiritual practice? Is that like something that you feel like is true for
Yeah, I mean,
you as
and I don't
well?
wanna fully say I don't embrace performance. Having, boy, 20 years of experience in sporting as an athlete, like, I still have regiments and routines, and I still do appreciate the workout. I still focus, on getting fit as best as I can to peak for races. That is still very important to me. And I think when you've got sacrifices, with your time, your family, and your money, like that's a way that I can truly honor the sacrifices, is by making sure I'm showing up race day 100% ready and fit to perform at my best. So, yeah, I mean, I'm still definitely, you know, embracing the performance side, still have a lot of, unrealized goals within the sport that are just personal that, I do want to achieve. But spiritually, yeah. I mean, as
Yeah.
a Christian, like I love the silence, with running. Don't always have podcasts or music in my headphones. I think that's critical for ultra running, because if you're running, 100% of your time with something in your ears, and race day, you don't plan to do that, it's going to be a shock to the system and maybe something you're not prepared for. Even if you're, planning the music 50 miles later, those first 50 is going to be, a bit of an out of body experience for you. So, I mean, I love the silence, you get into some sort of like hypnosis, when you're running, there's just such a calmness and peace around you. And, whether, something with your family, with your job, a coworker, somebody cuts you off, like you just feel so much more clear minded to make decisions and respond to things differently, after running. So that's invaluable to me. Like, and if you have a significant other, they know you when you've ran, and they know you when you haven't, and they're usually pushing you to get out the door to say, "Hey, you need to go blow some steam off, man. Get out of here. You're bugging us."
Yeah, that has become extremely true with me. Like I'm a different human being before and after. Like and I'm not saying like I've become like an asshole, but
Yeah.
there's like a little edge to me before I go for a run that it's just like it's just kind of there. It's kind of just sticking around, and like I just got to go shake it off, But and it's funny, like I hope so. I also host a music podcast, and we talk about like what's in people's earbuds while they run. And it's funny because I don't listen to music that often while I run either. Like especially race day, it's like I kind of want to like find like
Right.
that race day flow. I guess I'll keep something with me in case I run into like problems, But but yeah, certainly if depends on what I'm working through. I'll never really throw music in either. But yeah, it's kind of like a good way of like if you got something you just can't shake or get off your mind, it's like such a good way to like work through that, and you can kind of like troubleshoot it while you're like running. So
Yeah,
I certainly
absolutely.
agree with
That's
that.
cool. You got a music podcast.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll have some questions related to that. So yeah, something I noticed on your every time I follow someone on Instagram, like what
Right.
kind of songs are they playing? And I saw you had some like Merle Haggard. I'm just like, all right, like I'm at to ask
Yeah.
Wolfie some music questions because I was digging that. Yeah, you had some good like Culture Wall last week. I was like, damn man, you got some good stuff lined up on your Instagram.
Yeah.
So I appreciate
Yeah.
the
Being a
good
fan of
tunes you
music,
got on there.
that was definitely something
Yeah,
that me and my wife also bonded on early on. And yeah, just I'm all over the place now with music. I can thank her for kind of that old school and that country vibe. I wasn't really into those genres, but yeah, because of her now, there's a ton of talented artists that I think really, aesthetically or their music matches the aesthetics out here in the desert. And so, that's half the fun and half the reason why I got Instagram was like it was really fun to be able to create these reels as kind of just a yearbook or a scrapbook for all of my adventures out in the desert and being able to pair them with the way that you put your kit together, your clothing with a nice music track, and then you're like, wow, this is cool, man. I like it for me. If anybody else doesn't like it, that's fine, but
yeah,
they're just fun for me.
yeah. I agree with that. I try to do the same thing. I'll like I'll take create some content or whatever, and then I'll be like, man, that outfit that I wore, or like the background, or like this like filter kind of looks good with like, I don't know, like pick a song like
Right.
a Waylon Jennings song, or like a heavy metal song. So I always like how like I kind of like how your Instagram's like curated that way. I guess it's just such a cool vibe. It's like I think you've captured kind of in a weird way. You've captured like things I didn't know that I wanted, like how I wanted to express myself with trail running,
Yeah.
if that makes sense at all. But and I could yeah, and I could imagine, man. So I could already pick what I could already pick in my mind what songs I want to listen to in the event I get to run in the desert soon, hopefully. So yeah, I love how you like paired up those like sounds with like the aesthetics of like running in Arizona. I just think that's
Yeah,
really
it's super
cool.
fun. There's a lot of places out there that I wish I was running, because I could already think of, cool tracks to put with it. But yeah, you gotta appreciate where you're running. So I'm sure you've got some cool trails that people are envious of as well.
Yeah, yeah, the Midwest for some reason to me, it always reminds me of like because we got like hills and hollers and stuff, and it always kind of reminds me of some like like Tyler Childers, like some like kind of like underground like bluegrass, like high
Right.
lonesome country sounds. So that's usually where I gravitate towards. That'll just be in my head while I'm running. Like Indiana is gifted with like having you think Indiana's flat, it's just cornfields and flat, but we have some gems here. And like they're like these beautiful like switchbacky single tracks, nice rolling hills, usually really lush and green. Can be kind of humid and swampy at times, so that kind of dictates kind of like the vibe to it. It's really special. We got some gems here. If you ever get a chance to run out this way, we've got some pretty cool stuff out here in Ohio and Indiana. There's like beautiful. It's almost like you're not even on this
Right.
planet when you run some of these really cool, like little switchback
That's awesome.
utopias that we've got kind of nestled in the Midwest. Um, but yeah, something I want to talk about is Wolfie's World. So like, I guess you're 20. I lost your 26 episodes
I
into
I, I
Wolfie's
used
World.
to
I
s-
can't remember what
yeah, I used to
20
send
something, right?
the audio file to Josh with like the number, and then I think I stopped doing it, or I did like an emergency 911, and so I I've stopped. I'm not very good at the technical side behind the scene.
Yeah. That's what I did today. Like today, I was like, I don't even know. I think this is never
There you go.
episode 28, I guess. But it's like same thing. I was just like, yeah. But I guess I kind of want to know like where was Wolfie's World born? Like, how did you become a part of the
Yeah,
Borderlands
that's I
network?
mean, it's a pretty cool story. I mean, um, I had done like appearances with Aaron Shimon's, Trail Talk, and that ended, and I
Oh yeah.
was hungry for more engagement. I wanted to be on a podcast, but I knew that like, my time's limited and I'm not tech savvy. So I wasn't going to be able to produce everything, figure out how to get it on the streaming services, like all that. I knew it was too big of a lift. I wasn't going to ever do it. And so Josh had come out with Bad Runner's Take a few times and they were solo monologues. And I had just messaged him and said, man, buddy, you need somebody else on there that you can kind of flush these out with a difference of opinion. I think maybe, sometimes somebody that could challenge your opinion, would better elevate the conversation. So I just, kind of got into his DMs and introduced myself. We had a call. We really connected on a lot outside of running. And yeah, he was just open minded. I think it was a place in Borderlands existence where he was looking for some new voices himself. And so it was just serendipitous and, divine intervention, we'll call it. And here we are. I mean, we've really hit it full blast and we've been consistent. And yeah, I mean, I just thank him for the opportunity and just keep paying it forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had Josh on maybe back in January. Man, what a revelation it was to talk to him, and his podcast kind of helped shape like my early entry into taking on 100-mile distance, which I'm 0 for 2 right now. Maybe that's
Right
where
on.
me and Josh kind of our journeys align a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, so yeah, and that's the other thing that really strikes me is, so you do one of these a week and it's a monologue, which, man, hats off to you. So I have the luxury of having guests like great guests, like I don't have to really do that. It's just like ask some questions and like let my guests do the thing. You're coming up weekly with 20 plus minute monologue. Like do these just come to you, or do you have these like planned out? Like, I guess I'm just like, for myself, I guess curious, like what's your creative process for that? Do you just have something you just have to get off your chest, or do you like, yeah, I just think that's so wild to do like a solo monologue like once a week
Yeah.
for
If I
almost a
let
half an hour. Like that's
if I let you behind the curtain, it's probably not that impressive. It really is just I genuinely think, I have a passion and like just a natural talent for communication. My day job puts me in a position of, being a coach, and I really embrace that. Like I love to communicate things simply so others can then, buy into it and make decisive actions that are going to get the results they want. And so a lot of times these concepts come to me Saturday evening, I'll brainstorm, put some bullet points together, and then I'll just hit record. And at first it was a lot of pressure. And I liked it because, it was a familiar sense of like when you got into ultra running and you first towed the line at a 50K, a 100K, a 100 miler, you felt so nervous and anxious. And that's exactly how it felt for those first, like, I don't know, 10 probably, because I don't have any editing. So it's like I know I got to do this in one take and then send the file over to Josh. And so yeah, I mean it's daunting, but I think, like I said in another episode, like I had an interview with my job and I wasn't nervous for it. And I think it's largely because of the work I've been doing with these monologues that, I just feel prepared to, you know, be stripped down and show people who I am and, be okay with it. So yeah, there's not much behind it. A lot of these concepts kind of come to me either on a run, listening to a podcast, talking to my circle of friends. And then from there, I just kind of strategize out, how I want to tie it into the 95, which part of the 95, personal anecdotes that I can give. And yeah, I mean, I like them. I enjoy creating them. And they're kind of like conversations I wish I would have found for myself. So that's kind of why they come
yeah,
together.
absolutely. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It's made me think deeper about my relationship with the sport. Yeah, just like it just blows me away. So yeah, man, hats off, man. It's got to be tough, but I mean, it sounds like a labor of love too. So I think
Yeah.
you said something earlier. If you're doing something you love, are you truly working? I think that was today's episode. But so yeah,
Yeah.
it's that's cool. What, so this many episodes in, I guess maybe a two-part question. Like, what do you think you've learned about yourself by doing these monologues, or yeah, like, or about the sport? Like, how do you think it's changed like your relationship with the sport? Also, I guess. what have you learned about yourself, and what have you learned? Like, how does it change your relationship with the sport? I guess is what I'm trying to get at. But
Yeah, I mean, it's really um, what I've learned about it was that there's a lot of people out there who were like me. I think that we're searching for fresh conversations. Like you said, and like we've all talked about. Like, it's no shade, it's no knock on, the major podcasting, platforms. Like what they do and what they're passionate about and what resonates with them, they do and they execute, right? But I think it just leaves a big vacuum for us to still, want additional communication, right? Like just additional content, right? And I think that's the biggest validation I've had. And then when you get that validation, it just makes you want to pour more back into the community. Like you can't just live with all of this good um you know good feeling, good sense of accomplishment. You want to just push it back on those that have been encouraging you, supporting you, and lifting you up. And then ultimately, like, it's humbled me as well. Like, I don't have to, I'm kind of a natural snarky smartass. And, sometimes that gets me in trouble. And if I want to truly connect and help as many people as possible, like I've had to tone that down, admit when I'm, wrong, be transparent to say like, these are positions, they are fluid and flexible. And I think that's a big personal growth step. Like I probably couldn't have been able to do Wolfie's World 3 years ago because I would have wanted it to be something that was more entertaining than educational and entertaining, if that makes sense.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think I could have done this any earlier than when I did it. Yeah, it's certainly humbling, right? And it's kind of amazing. To your point, I had the opportunity to do some like public speaking last summer, and like, not on like a podcast is a little bit more benign, I guess, than speaking in front of a big crowd. But and I was like, before I was a podcast host, there's no way I could have stood up on the stage and talked in front of like 300 people.
Right.
And yeah, I would have just been scared shitless, or the same thing, or spoke up at work and like a presentation or anything like that. So I guess that's my takeaway so far.
Yeah, we came to it from the opposite angles. Is that with my day job, I was doing that naturally in a position where, I had, the respect, from others as, being credentialed to do this. And then when I came into the podcasting space, I felt entirely uncredentialed. And, but it's not about like, I'm not coming here saying that like my ultra sign up is why I feel capable of communicating the messages I do. The messages I do have nothing really to do with ultra sign up, or any of the things that are going to be, you know, in Strava. Like these are just, I think, human aspects and human elements, that just touch to the core. And it just so happens to be I'm communicating through the language of running. And I think that's why it still feels authentic to me and to the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, certainly. I could certainly agree with it being humbling too, I guess, on top of everything
Oh
else. It's
yeah.
yeah. It's so my question is, like, I messaged you earlier. I was like, man, I'm nervous. Like, are you still nervous to do these? Like, even this, like,
Yeah.
we're about on the same number of shows, and I feel like I'm still nervous from as as much as I was like my very first episode. Maybe not as bad, but I still have like that, like, maybe it's more of like an excitement, I guess,
There you
that
go.
takes over me now. But do you still feel that way, even Wolfie's World now?
No, I mean, well, with Wolfie's World, the biggest nerves I have is like landing on the topic that I really feel like I can commit to a full 25, minute monologue. But it's kind of like once the topic gets delivered, that's like the gun going off. We all get the jitters before we get to the start line, right? But as soon as they say go, it's all fine. We're like, okay, no, this is familiar. I'm good. It's the same thing for me. Like the equivalent of the start line and the gun going off is me figuring out the topic. And then from there, I feel like I'm in a rhythm and I'm good.
Yeah, like I was like in my head thinking of it like it's like the same thing. It's like the start line jitters, the beginning of a
Right.
podcast. But like once you get moving, you're like, all right, here's like my cadence for this thing. Like,
Right.
and it starts kind of rolling. But yeah, I love that. So what do you think? What do you think's like the future of like some of Wolfie's World? Where do you think it's gonna go? Or do you have like a 5-year plan? I know it's like a cliche question, but I guess I'm just kind of curious for myself. Like, where do you see Wolfie's World going, like heading? Or I guess I'm just curious.
Yeah. I mean, I'm comfortable with where it's at now. It's within Borderlands ecosystem. I think it's a unique platform within the community because Josh is building something out in a way that's non-traditional. He's bringing on different contributors with content. I think that, resonate with, a different voice, a different tone, a different topic. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm excited to be a part of that, to be a big character under Borderlands. I mean, it's intimidating because if you talk to Josh, he has a 1 year, 5 year, 10 year plan, and like the
Yeah.
plans and goals that he has are outrageous, right? Like I don't have that entrepreneurial mind. Like I've been in the corporate environment for 20 plus years. Like all I know is like, falling in line and figuring out how to move up this corporate ladder. And he's just like, no, we just forget the ladder. We just build an escalator and we build an elevator and all, these concepts that I don't fully understand yet. But I mean, I think what we're doing with the Outrider League that should launch this later summer should be really fun. It's a concept around, if you like softball, baseball, golf, basketball, like everyone who's a fan of those sports has like a recreational league that you can play in your 30s, 40s, 50s, right? And so I miss that for running. Like all we really get is the races, and with the race costs going up, you're running fewer races now. And so it'd be cool to get like a team vibe going where, the Mesa team's competing against, your hometown team, and we're doing it virtually, but you're connecting each week with your local guys in an intentional way, and it's got some competition. And yeah, I mean, you're firing everybody up, whether you're the fastest guy on the team or you're the guy bringing up the back end. Like everyone is going to contribute, and so everybody's going to be rooting each other on. I think it has a lot of opportunity there if we just get the logistics dialed in.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome because that's kind of what I think is missing. Like here where I live, it's like I kind of live like a running island. So it's like, man, I'm just like there's something missing in my running life, and it's like I need like a crew, like a
Right.
team, like. And I love that idea. It's like I'll probably never go play like softball or whatever. Nothing against it. It's just not really my jam or whatever. But I like hitting some dingers with a softball, but I won't round the bases anytime soon. But so yeah, I really like this concept and this idea. So I'm really stoked for that. I'm hoping maybe it'll help spark up some dirtbag trail runners in my area, and we can create a team out this way. I think that's really cool. Um, yeah, I'm really stoked to see that develop. It'd be really cool to kind of have like a front seat to seeing you guys kind of grow that.
Right.
That'd be
Yeah, I think a
cool.
lot of people are excited, but they're all, I think just waiting to see, when we actually launch it and you can register. And so, like I said, I mean, I know that's something that me and Josh meet on, quite frequently. And so it's coming, guys. I promise you.
Cool, cool. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
all excited. Yeah, good stuff. Um, I have another podcasting question.
Yeah.
I'm a podcaster, so I'm gonna ask a lot of podcasting questions, I guess. So what do you think's been like the most surprising, um, or like feedback you've gotten since you've been doing Wolfie's World?
It's always, I never anticipate, I had humble, probably self-deprecating expectations for this, right? And so it's always the messages that you get from people who are letting you know that that episode was what got them, over a mental roadblock, something of an adversity, right? Or it just really spoke to them in a real personal way. I mean, those are the ones that, blow me away. Like I appreciate those. I always respond to those. I know obviously it's easier, when you're growing because you just have, a smaller, follower count, fewer listeners. And so my hope is to always, try and engage and respond. I don't ever want to lose sight of, how important, those people are who reach out to you to let them know that your episode served a real value to them in their life.
Yeah, absolutely. I've only had that happen a handful of times, and it was probably one of the most fulfilling things I've ever heard. And I was just like, wow, it's
Oh
like
man.
I think it's cool that anybody even takes like time is like a serious commodity, right? You don't get it back. So it's like I'm always so like honored if any like one person gives me like an hour of their time. It's like that's a big deal. And so yeah, I guess I just certainly agree with that. And it's wild that anybody wants to hear anything I have to say anyways for more than like 5 minutes. So I'm like when someone takes time out of their life, I just feel like that's like a huge deal. So
Yeah. I think I learned too. It's like I've always said is like we have way more in common than differences, and so I think that's one of the other things that Wolfie World tried to do well is just build bridges, for the community. I think we're probably naive if we think that the trail running community, is as tight knit as it is. I do think there's niches. I think there's groups that, are welcomed without question, and there's others that people are a bit more hesitant, and standoffish towards. And, but I think that with Wolfie's World, because we're not talking about it in a traditional way, you can just kind of see a lot of these groups, come together and, yeah, hopefully it's, the olive branch to everyone to feel like, they can come and connect here.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt kind of right at home with Borderland, like Wolfie's World and Borderlands, like from the get go. I mean, that's like I think that's what kept. It's one of the things that like kept me in the sport. It's not what it's not what got me into it, but I think it's certainly what kept me there. And then it kind of made me realize, kind of like who I want to be in the space. I guess like kind of like you said, like the avatar, like who I want to be, like while I'm laced up. I think it kind of helped me like find that like identity too in like a weird way, because like I said, I'm still young into the sport and trying to figure out like who I am in the space. And I was like, oh, I think these are my people. Like so,
Right.
um, yeah, it's been really cool. Tuning in and like you said, it kind of the vibe of both of the shows kind of make you feel like you've always been a part of it. So yeah,
Yeah, it's wild to think that Bad Runners Take did exist, before I was on it. And um yeah, it's just, again, it's a fun thing for me to do. I always look forward to it. I don't know how you are, but like, I love the brainstorming, with Josh on different topics. We are sharing things between each other, with, ideas and future, concepts. And so yeah, it's totally been fun, and it's just a testament to him. He's a founder. He created this. He's poured a lot of time, a lot of money into it, and he just saw me as an asset. And I think that's what makes him a successful entrepreneur, is that he's, like he said, he's not afraid to champion and raise people who maybe do things better than him. Like he knows that Borderlands is better if we have, experts in their domain rather than just one person who's, kind of decent at everything.
yeah, yeah. Um, Man, those debates, whew, man, that's like I joked to myself. I was like, I want, like, I really wanted to have really want to have you on the show, but like, I joked to a buddy, like, I was just like, hey, man, I think I got Brian Peterson coming on the show. And he's like, oh, cool. I was like, not for a debate. It's like, there's no way, man. Maybe someday down the road when I know what I'm talking about, I can come on for one of those. I was like, yeah, not a debate.
Yeah,
I just want to get to know Wolfie. Those are so good, though. The Western
that
States
was
debates have been really awesome. Um, how cool was it had the speed goat on your show? Like that's
oh, it's
freaking incredible, right?
yeah. So as a fan of the sport, I mean, yeah, I mean Troy's a great guy. AJW, a legend.
AJW.
Yeah, being from Southern California, like, what he accomplished at Western States, and then, early Mountain Outpost days when he was in Arizona, like he was a staple on, the Age as a Whizzle segments. And so, yeah, to have him on was super fun. And then, yeah, I mean, you get the legend Speed Goat to come on, and, you know, it was a great episode, but I call him Trail Dad because we ended up agreeing on so much. It wasn't really much of
Yeah.
a debate as like us just kind of agreeing on different pain points and frustrations within the sport. And yeah, he dropped a couple truth bombs that I don't think the hard rock community was ready to hear. And so that was super fun. And then yeah, Joe
Jo-
put a nice bow on
Joe.
it. I
Yeah.
think Joe just came with the right temperament, well researched, and I really enjoyed all four conversations. I think they all brought a different, flavor to them. I think, like I said, I appreciate Troy. That one got the most heated and contentious because I think the topic itself had the most gunpowder behind it, and it just took
Yeah.
one match, and we were having a true debate, the type that you'd see around, a political topic or something social. And so, yeah, that one was super fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I had Troy on like about a year ago. Like big fan of Troy. I just all around I loved everyone's input, but I was like, yeah, whew. I was like, dang, I was just like getting a kick out of Josh talking about I'm gonna kick back with some popcorn and
Right.
just chill. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, you had some heavy hitters on. That's cool. Yeah, that's wild.
Are you going to be watching
Um,
Western States?
yeah, I've got to.
Right.
Uh, the Unbreakable 2 thing's not happening, and I feel like I don't know if I want to speak too loudly. As I feel like they're kind of missing. They're missing an opportunity with the women's field. I think I don't want to like ruffle any feathers, but it's like I know it's the logistics for changing a whole documentary aren't as easy. Like, well, now we'll just do this, but maybe hopefully this will like shed a little light. Like maybe they're sleeping on like an elite women's field, and I think David Roach is gonna really shake some stuff up. Like that's how I'm kind of. I feel like he's like the underdog, and he's like. It seems like he's the easiest to shit on, and I think people are gonna sleep on him. He's gonna really shine through. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
really
as I called him,
I've got to watch this.
he's the trail savior we didn't know we needed. I think 2025 would be a lot less entertaining if it wasn't for David, being in Western states, putting out the content on YouTube. And yeah, I mean, when you've got everybody talking about you, podcasters that are professional runners themselves are talking about you, you're not losing. So yeah, I love it.
No, I think it seems to me like watching his YouTube videos and watching his training, it feels like the shade is like fueling him too.
Oh, I
I think
bet.
that's yeah. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how cool would Unbreakable 2 be as a documentary? But I mean, I guess I could see, having to pull the project. But like I said, maybe this will like give them more motivation to pay attention to the women's field. I think there's a huge like they're kind of missing a big mark there because yeah, it's going to be an exciting year for the women's field. I think too. But
Yeah, it's funny. I
what?
think I shared today on my stories a reel of Jeff Browning, Bronco Billy, and Michael Versteeg. They were running together here in Arizona somewhere, shirtless, and they just had two handhelds, or one handheld in each hand. And I'm like, I titled it "Unbreakable" too, because I mean, when I think about Unbreakable, it was Anton, shirtless with a handheld, and like you see these two guys with sun baked skin, shirtless with a handheld. It's like that's what the Unbreakable 2 is that we want, and I think they were maybe trying to force feed this Jim, Killian, Hayden. And yeah, I think the 95, all of us fans of the sport, we would have loved any version that would have come out of this year's race. And so I don't know. I would imagine it's probably something related to Hoka since,
Yeah,
they pulled the plug after two major marquee Hoka athletes, pulled out. So it's a bummer.
it's unfortunate. It's probably like you said, it's like a branding issue. But man, like what a year it could be to keep the cameras rolling. I think, but
Right.
it is what it is. I mean, someone has to pay to keep the lights on somewhere. So
Right.
I guess they had to pull the plug.
Certainly understand. Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll be stoked. I'll be tuned into that. It'll be exciting to see what happens.
Yeah, we're gonna try to go live every hour
Yeah,
on
yeah,
Instagram and YouTube. So we'll be following through the Made Men versus Associates theme that I introduced, trying to track the 200-mile specialists who have incredible turnover. Try and get maybe some access to Jeff Browning's crew because he's chasing the 50-year-old age group record.
cool.
Um, Hyperlight, the guys over there are gonna maybe try and get us some boots on the ground intel with Hans and Emily and their athletes there. So yeah, a lot going on, and yeah, Josh is busy slaving away trying to figure out how to make this live stream work.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'll definitely be tuning in. It'll be an unproductive week or at work for me when you guys go live, but I'll find a good hiding spot.
Right.
um, I have a question, um, kind of on the same topic, but in your opinion, like what do you think trail running in the community gets right, and where do you think they go wrong in the sport?
I think they get it right when they say that it's the greatest thing the individual can do for improvement. I think that's why you see people come in from addiction. They come in from wanting unhealthy habits, unhealthy lifestyles, weight loss, right? They come in from burning out of CrossFit, gym life, high rocks, right? Dual athletes, right? Like there's just so many places that people enter the sport from. And so they get it right when they say that, yeah, this is something that's great for everyone. It's great for the soul. It's great for everyone. Everybody comes out of this sport, I think, better when it's done right. And what do I get? Well, what they get wrong is I think they just build a gate around it. Then it's like if trail running can save the world, it's always been my contention, then why aren't we trying to get out and advocate to the world? You know what I mean? Like there's no wrong person to come into the sport. The world's messy. There's a lot of differences out there. You just look at the news or you look at social media. There's plenty of differences and opinions out there. But within trail running, we should be able to put that to the side and just understand that people are coming here to better themselves. Even if they're coming in with the most egotistical, selfish ambitions, if they stay long enough, that's going to get grinded away. You know what I mean? Like the most humble man is going to become, or the most, egotistical man will become humble after doing a 100-mile race. It's just, I don't
Oh,
know how
yeah.
you couldn't.
I 100% agree with that. I've DNF'd 2 of them, but I'm telling you, I'm not the same
Yep.
person that I was before I DNF'd at 67 miles my first time and 45 the last time. Like, it's like you said, it's like your ego goes away in a big ass hurry when you try to run that far. You're just not the same, and I certainly agree with that. Yeah, I went into it with a lot of ego, like I've got this, I got this in the bag, and then you learn really quickly that you don't know shit, and whatever plan you had is gone in a big
Right.
hurry.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Wolfie, like I said, I'm gonna have to ask you at least a music question while we're here. So lately, you're running. I know you don't always do earbuds, but let's say you had earbuds in for one. What would you maybe like top 3 songs be on? That's kind of in your rotation now.
That's a good question. It's not really like any sort of song itself. It'll be different genres that probably I just
Different genres.
tune into from like my Amazon Music. So like right now, like probably CCR, is a big one for
Ooh.
me. Loving some good Creedence Clearwater Revival. If I go that route, classic rock. Their catalog I think is underappreciated. There's a lot of other bands I think that resonate from that area, but in that time period. But they're solid, man. I mean, I think they're one of the best American rock bands. Um, I love anything like late 90s, early 2000s of that indie rock kind of emo. Was wearing a used shirt the other day. Like it's fun to go back and kind of just hear the silliness, the pent up, anger coming
Oh
through
yeah.
guys with eyeliner and skinny jeans and flat ironed hair. Like just the ridiculousness of it is fun to still go out and run around in. So yeah, there's a bunch. I huge Kings of Leon fan, so
Oh, nice.
the playlist kind of knows that I want to hear that every now and then. So yeah.
Man, I agree. CCR, like I mean, I don't think I've ever even been in a bayou, but like when I hear Born on the Bayou, I'm like, oh man, I can almost put myself in like that swamp at the time. So yeah, certainly CCR. That's good running music. Um, yeah, cool, man. So I'll just I'll pick some random CCR and I'll throw that on the playlist. Like I said, we've got like this community playlist for populating, and we have a podcast built around it. So maybe down the road, I'll have to have you on the podcast. We can talk tunes for a little bit. But
Yeah, that'd be great. That's one of the concepts I'm working on is a Wolfie's World a playlist.
oh,
And
really?
yeah, kind of
Okay.
using an episode to walk down the song titles, try and find lyrics, maybe if it's one line, the title, the chorus, and then just spend a minute talking about that as, why it resonates, why it's important, give some sort of like, some information, some educational, information around it, and then releasing the playlist, the next day. So basically you hear me talk about the playlist, we kind of have a conversation together. And then the next time you go out and run, you can listen to it. I think it just kind of makes
Oh,
that connection to the community so much better when you don't just have the playlist, but you have kind of it's like the CD booklet, right? Like we don't have that anymore. We don't have the insert, in the vinyl anymore that you get to talk about. You get to hear like what the artist was thinking when they wrote it. So I'm thinking, let's do the playlist, but let me do an episode and explain why these songs are important to me, or what I really think is pretty cool about them, and then drop the playlist.
oh, I love that idea. Yeah, we've had ours playlist for like maybe a year, and we've got like 31 out. So we have other people submit their songs. We'll do like challenges, like this is like 90s grunge week, or we're doing something this week for Juneteenth. So we're having like all genres from like the BIPOC community submit music. So that like, and we've done like kind of when there was like some political turmoil, we did like like revolution music or like punk music, and I think we're up to like 31 hours and some odd change, and like 40 playlists saved somewhere in there. It's been really cool, like just letting this like playlist organically happen with everybody in our community. It's been really cool. But
That's awesome.
yeah, when you get that together, I'll definitely have to get on board with that. Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, I'll have to have you on that podcast sometime. Well, something I wanted to ask before we wrap this up is I wanted to give you some time. I was kind of curious, like if you had to leave anybody with closing advice, what would that be?
Yeah, it's funny. I just asked if there was any sort of like, deep questions, just so I could prepare ahead of time, because I don't want to, leave a podcast where I regret not putting something out there that's valuable and serving the audience that's taking time to listen. And so what came to me immediately was kind of this concept that I had been thinking about it, but I didn't connect it in an efficient way. And so I'm finally ready to kind of drop the knowledge now. And it's basically you feed the dream and you normalize the routine. And so basically what that means for me is, too often I hear people in the community, like they use these qualifying phrases like I'm only, or, I'm not doing that yet. Right. Like when they ask, what race are you signed up for? Oh, I'm just doing the 50. I'm just doing, like if there's a 100-miler available. Right. And it's like, man, don't do that. Right. Like you're already like losing, half the power of the dream when you're sitting there saying these qualifying statements to somebody because you think they're not going to think it's good enough or enough. Right. And it's like, bro, man, just anything you're doing, whether it's a 5K or 256 miles at Cocodona, it's enough. Like, and so you got to feed the dream, feed it, make it as big of a monster as you can, because the bigger that you want that dream and the more it means to you, and like the bigger fan you are of the dream that you have, the more others are going to be like that too. But you got to normalize the routine. We all know this. Like, you got to just be out there running because it's what you do. You know what I mean? It's not,
Ooh,
you
nice.
can't just have, motivation, right? The Goggins reels, like all of these, they're like sugary candy of motivation, and it's not good. It's not sustainable. You have to normalize the routine. You have to get up every day because you just want to, because it's what it takes for you to get to that big dream. So that's what I got for you, Joe. Feed the
Man,
dream, normalize the routine.
damn, dude, that was. I'm glad that I asked that question. That was a good one, man. I think I needed to hear that. Feed the
Yeah.
dream. Yeah, I'm bad about doing the just thing, and I'm working really hard at shaking that. And Wolfie, man, I appreciate the hell out of that closing advice. That was good stuff, dude. If anything, I probably needed to hear that. So, man,
Good,
thank
man.
you.
Yeah, we all need it. The sport can easily, make us feel like the goals we have and the aspirations we have, are smaller than others. And it's just nobody's doing it intentionally, but it's just, the consequences of being in an ultra sport where the word is there, it's ultra. And so the minute you do something that you think is impressive, you turn on social media and you see people doing things bigger than you. So yeah, man, Joe, you got to stop saying just or only
Yeah.
or anything like that, man. You're an ultra
I'll,
runner.
hell yeah, I'll be shaking that. I'll be shaking that just stuff.
Right.
Yeah, man, cool, Wolfie. Man, thank you for coming on. It's like I said, it was a true honor. I'm a big fan. I'm really stoked to have you here, and man, I can't wait to keep tuning into Wolfie's World, man. It's good stuff. You're doing great things. I think you're providing a space and a voice for a lot of people, and it's resonating with people like me. And there's a lot of us out there. So, man, just keep crushing those Wolfie's World. It's awesome. Um, and I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you coming on,
You
and
bet, man.
I appreciate everybody that tuned in. Give Wolfie a follow. You're not going to be disappointed with anything that he does. It's good content. It's a great show. And like I said, smash that subscribe button. Give us a 5-star review. Comment. I mean, Wolfie said some really good stuff here. So throw some comments on Spotify. Let's get it. Maybe we can just keep this conversation going on that platform. And I can't wait to go beyond the finish line with you all on the next episode.